The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Knowledge is power, and this is powerful stuff. Wellness Education Cannabis Advocates of Nevada present the We Can 702 Nevada Cannabis News Hour with the We Can radio team. For the next 60 minutes, we'll take an in-depth look at the cannabis reform revolution sweeping the nation. Now, let's fire up the news hour. Here is the We Can radio team.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Cannabis News Hour. This is your host Michael McAuliffe, and with me is my co-host Perry Haichu here in studio. Hey, wow, what a week this last week was. It was
definitely lots of surprises,
ups and downs. You know, as Dickens wrote, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It seems to be you know, a great week for pot, and maybe, but depending on who we've got,
it seems like all the polls concerning the marijuana industry over all 8 states, or excuse, how many states were going? It was 8, right? 9.
9 states. Arizona is the only one that.
Okay, so we got 8 out of 9 then.
Yes.
Okay, so what? It went medically legal in Florida, North Dakota, Arkansas, the first Bible Belt state to go medical, and
updating of the law in Montana.
Right. Well, they've had trouble with that. They the voters voted in about an initiative, and then the Supreme Court of Montana kind of put the clamps down on it, or something like that. Or the legislature came back and amended it.
The legislature came back and amended it severely, and so the voters this time had to go out and smack the legislators with this initiative again to say this is the will of the people. So we'll see how they respond in their next session.
And then, of course, California, Nevada, and
Massachusetts
and Maine also went recreational, and all those polls seemed good. But I don't know how they got so right with the cannabis and so wrong with the presidential. I mean, is this the end of modern political polling as we know it after that upset?
Modern political polling, not only that, and I do agree that it shows that polling is not the science we thought it was, but how campaigns are going to be run in the future compared to the projected costs of presidential campaigns this cycle and over the past, as it's been building the past few years, Donald Trump spent next to nothing on his campaign. And I don't mean just personally, but they got the media to give them a couple of $1 billion worth of free airtime, and so they didn't have to spend. This campaign, although Trump has gone around, President-elect Trump, has gone around the country and done various appearances to quite large crowds, so much of his campaign was on TV.
And I do. He played them like he played the media like a fiddle. Absolutely. I heard that he spent more money on hats and buttons than on television commercials.
Yes.
That's just.
And it played well to the rural crowd that helped carry him over the top here.
Absolutely, no doubt.
So it's interesting though. When Ronald Reagan won the presidency in 1980, everybody thought, well, that's kind of a really strange thing, and an actor as president, how could that possibly be a good thing? How could you believe this guy? And so here we are 36 years later with a TV reality star.
People like to compare him to Reagan a lot, and I don't.
Well, only in that they're both media personalities, and the point of where I was going with that is that a lot of the reading I've done, or some of the reading that I've done, suggests that the future political campaigns are going to be between more well-known people in the media. And I don't mean Kanye saying he's running in 2020, or Michael Moore saying that he's going to run in 2020. But people. If you look back to the Kennedy-Nixon debate in 1960, a lot of people said what put Kennedy over the top, besides all the dead bodies that voted in Chicago, was the Nixon-Kennedy debate, where Nixon just was sweating bullets and looked bad and looked nervous.
Yeah, I saw a whole documentary on that. That was the first televised presidential debate, was it not?
Yes, it was. And Kennedy was, young, handsome,
cool, calm, collected. Yeah,
exactly that. And so there is substantiation, I think, to the theory that moving forward we're going to have people who are extremely media savvy and who are already with a public image who will be running for these high offices.
We'll see how that goes. Maybe that will play out, but the way I perceive it is that I think this is a real slap in the face to the modern political establishment as we see it. You know, Donald Trump wasn't the Republicans' first choice. He wasn't really their 16th choice, if you want to get right down to it. And he, the deck was so stacked against it. Like the mainstream media really hated him. The Republicans hated him. The big banks hated him. Everyone, Wall Street didn't donate to him.
Right.
It was all of this collected effort against him, and he just turned all that upside down right on its head. And what that kind of shows me is that maybe we don't need major political parties to get candidates elected anymore. And if candidates realize that they don't need parties, why are they beholden to the party line in order to curry those votes? Well, so we might see, I'm not saying that this is, we're going to go third party or whatever, but I would love to see Donald Trump renounce his Republican affiliation and go nonpartisan like he threatened to, just like Senator Patricia Farley recently did here in Nevada after the election went down.
Yeah, go get me, and you're stuck with Pence.
whatever it is, you know what I mean? I just think they really, they treated him badly, as he would put it, over the course of the campaign, and I don't really see a reason for him to be kissing their ass and playing nice right now, one of
the people from his first season of Apprentice, Omarosa, has said that his opponents are going to have to bow down before him now, and that they're going to regret the days they said these things. That sounds like real Banana Republic.
It is what it is, I mean, they're the one who picked, everyone treated him like a joke, underestimated him from day one, and that was his greatest strength, is their underestimation of his capabilities. And he's just a person too, and he's a man, and when these people come out and are personally demonizing and attacking him, now that he's in an advantageous position, I would be a little bit afraid if I was Rosie O'Donnell right now also.
I guess you can't argue with that. Rosie might be one of the people who are going onto that Moving to Canada website.
Yeah, no doubt.
So what else, and talking about the president and whether he's a good choice or a bad choice, he is the choice of the Electoral College. Not the popular choice, but he'll be elected. And so, what is that going to mean for people in this industry? Because we have come to a point where last Tuesday we doubled the number of states who have legal marijuana, and has more than doubled the number of people, since California has the largest population of any state.
I think there's 27 medical states now, or 28 medical states after all this.
28 medical states now, and if you include the number of states who have CBD only laws, that puts it well beyond the threshold of 35 states for a constitutional amendment. So not that that's how pot is going to be re-regulated.
No, I don't think so.
But it just shows you have a supermajority of the country that has medical cannabis as completely legitimate, and so anybody else, they're going to come straggling along. They're not going to have a choice.
as we've seen time and again in our lovely political system here in the United States, the voice of the people is very seldomly addressed directly, and with this marijuana issue, of course,
it's addressed directly during the campaign season and then promptly forgotten after election day.
Well, sure, of course, and I think there's a lot of nerves being rattled in the cannabis industry right now because of a potential presidency, or not a potential, a upcoming presidency by Donald Trump, and the cabinet he's picking, I guess, has a lot of people nervous.
That's part of the problem that we have here. I've got a couple of articles, one from marijuanapolitics.com that says President-elect Trump's anti-cannabis entourage may restart federal war on marijuana, and the other one from our friend Derek Stanley over at Hemp News, reporting what does Trump presidency mean for the marijuana industry. And having read these articles a little earlier, we see that Trump himself is not an ideologue on this. He has come around different positions. He started his campaign off talking about drug dealers and rapists and this and that. But he's been around most every side of every issue, unfortunately. He has said that he is 100% in favor of medical marijuana, and I quote here: "Marijuana is such a big thing, I think that medical should happen, right? Don't we agree? I think so, he said, close quote. I'm going to have to work on a Trump impression for the next few years. And then he said, and then I really believe that we should leave it up to the states. So if he were to actually legalize medical marijuana across the country, that would be a great step forward. And it sounds like he's in favor of it. Okay, so he has talked about rescheduling down to Schedule 2.
Look, once again, it's just all talk, though, and the reason I say that is because, once again, he talks all about, oh, I built this big business, I built this great company, that's all he talks about. But it's like, okay, well, if you're so 100% behind medical marijuana, why haven't you come out and said all of the people who work for the Trump casinos are no longer going to be drug tested for marijuana if you have a medical marijuana card? He's made no such announcements because, in my opinion, he probably has no real honest motivation to change any of these things. It's just all pandering. Will he really make a fuss of it? Not until it depends on who he put. It depends on who he puts in his cabinet, but I haven't seen one person they've talked about, not one, who is friendly to the issue.
And the problem is that when famously Trump had said when he was trying to recruit John Kasich, look, I'll just have you run two things for me, the domestic policy and the foreign policy. If he is going to do that to some degree with Pence, then we have every right to be scared, because Mike Pence is a hardliner who has reinstituted mandatory minimums for drug crimes in Indiana. He is very socially conservative, a big fan of the DEA.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
he's a big hardline Republican, if there ever was one. He's an evolution denier. I mean, he's a textbook Bible Belt good old boy.
If we had President Trump say that he's going to defer those domestic issues to Mike Pence while he's busy making America great again, then that could see a renewed federal effort here. And you mentioned the cabinet. That too is a problem, and the biggest problem for anyone in the reform movement is the U.S. Attorney General. And we've seen them left and right. When we had John Ashcroft in the early days of the Reagan administration, he was a disaster for patients. The Supreme Court, the Raich decision, which addressed medical marijuana in 2005, was prosecuted by John Ashcroft. And so the people who hold the office of Attorney General hold a great deal of sway over the entire Department of Justice and its subsidiary agencies like the DEA, and the tone of the federal prosecutors, the 93 federal prosecutors across the country. And so the people who are being talked about for this position right now are, I can't believe that I'm even saying that Chris Christie is in the running for Attorney General of the United States when he's enmeshed in this Bridgegate scandal and his subordinates just got convicted on all counts. There's talk among the New Jersey Democrats in the legislature that they're going to reopen this investigation, and now they're going to be targeting Christie as a subject. And whether that comes to fruition or not, he's got approval rates in New Jersey of 20%. That's
almost as good as Congress.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's better.
No, I know. I'm just giving you shit.
But no, that's a good point though. But nonetheless, here's a guy who's ethically and morally challenged. Okay, let's take the marijuana issue. He has been in medical marijuana is in his own state. He has been one of the biggest obstacles to their implementation of their program. As it stands right now, New Jersey has 6 wholesale grow facilities, cultivation centers for the entire state, and that's just not enough to serve a population the size of the state of New Jersey. And so he has said earlier this year when he was running to people who were legalizers, he said, well, look, smoke them if you got them, because when I come in January 20th, 2017, it's going to be federally illegal, and I'm going to enforce all those laws. And so
yeah, I'm not not too excited about that, but thankfully it seems like he's kind of getting pushed to the back burner a little bit, and like in the Trump administration right now. Like, he showed a lot of loyalty up front in the beginning, and there was a lot of talk like he was gunning for these jobs, but I think Giuliani will end up getting it. But
Giuliani.
He's not the greatest either, though. Wasn't he the big broken windows?
Yes,
broken windows
guy. He started
guy?
the broken windows in New York City in his first administration.
Stop and frisk and all that crap.
He's a former federal prosecutor, so he's got the chops. For this job. And so the thing is, he has been so close to Trump, and I do think that President Trump is not going to be a policy wonk. I don't think he's going to be attentive to a lot of details, because that's just not him. He's going to delegate everything to everybody. And so when
he's more of a big picture kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. And so when he delegates the Department of Justice to the Attorney General, I think he will give that Attorney General a lot of free rein. And so if you have Rudy Giuliani, he's just
well, look, Trump's, I'm a friend of law enforcement. I'm going to give the law enforcement the tools they need to do their job. And it's like, dude, I'm all for the cops being able to do their job, but is that code for rearming them with militant things and allowing them to, do no-knock warrant, and bringing back some of the things that, in my opinion, like Obama has kind of done a few good things on that level. It's not about chopping the legs out from under law enforcement or making it a level playing field or whatever. It's just about having them enforce the laws in a way that doesn't threaten public safety more than protect it.
I think it also means choosing which laws to enforce. Unless you're going to run a regime like Ceausescu's Romania in the 1970s and 80s, where they had 1 out of every 5 people on the secret police payroll. Unless you're going to do something like that, you cannot possibly enforce all federal laws equally across the breadth of the nation. It require much larger law enforcement resources than we have. I mean, you can track them now. You can track them by their cell phones. You can do their emails and texts, but you can't physically arrest everybody for all crimes.
No.
And so it's where they're going to put their priorities, and we think there are plenty of other priorities besides.
Oh, certainly. But look, I remember a few years ago there were a ton of dispensaries in the San Diego area, and there was whispers, the feds are going to come in and they're going to shut down the San Diego things, and people went, there's too many of us, they'll never get all of us, and all of a sudden there were no more dispensaries in San Diego.
But it wasn't the feds, it was the San Diego County Commission.
They were asking for the help, though. Yes. They went to them and requested the help. Sure, of course, it started with San Diego County Commission, but they reached out to the government for this assistance, and they were more than happy to provide
and that's
the
what
manpower
happened
necessary.
Here in 2010 when they shut down all the dispensaries. The local authorities, Metro in specific, couldn't realize they couldn't handle this on their own, so they called in the DEA, they called in federal resources to do these multi-jurisdictional task forces and set that whole series of raids in motion. So you're right in that the federal government can insinuate itself even into these local matters. But Giuliani has, getting back to him, he said, I've checked with the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and the FDA says marijuana has no additive medical benefit of any kind, that the illegal trafficking of marijuana is so great that it makes much more sense to keep it illegal. I will keep it illegal. This
Fantastic.
Is Rudy Giuliani.
That's just wonderful.
Right? And so I think he is the odds-on front runner to become Attorney General. But there are 2 other candidates who are, I guess, a little more stealth candidates, although they're reasonably well known. And one of them is Jeff Sessions, and
the senator?
Senator Jeff Sessions.
I haven't heard this.
Of Alabama, I believe it was. And where did I have the first page of this article go? Chris Christie. Oh, Jeff Sessions. Here we are. Sorry about that. He's an ex-prosecutor from Alabama, hardline drug warrior for decades in the Senate, building upon his professional prosecutor career. He's been a senator since '96. He says, "I'm a big fan of the DEA," and that's a quote. Before, when he was testing or having Michelle Leonhardt, the former DEA administrator, testifying, and he was asking her point blank if she would fight medical marijuana legalization. So here's a guy who is completely out of step with the country, but nonetheless, he's he's a good possibility of getting it. Another one that they're talking about is Pamela Joe Bondi, and she came to light in the presidential campaign because she's the Attorney General of the state of Florida, who was given a big campaign donation by Trump, big $25,000, and then declined to prosecute Trump University in the state of Florida. And she's being looked at also as one of the likely possibilities here. And you know, as we were saying earlier, I think that if President Trump is not a details guy, and he delegates a lot of this, the guy we have to be really afraid of in this administration is Vice President-elect Mike Pence. Here's a guy as far-right governor of Indiana. His attitudes in this area have been deplorable. He reinstated mandatory minimums for Indiana drug offenses in questioning a proposed reduction in the severity of Indiana marijuana laws. He stated, I think, and this is a quote, Mike Pence, I think we need to focus on reducing crime, not reducing penalties. I think this legislation, as it moves forward, should still seek to continue to send a way strong message to the people of Indiana, and particularly to those who would come into our state to deal drugs, that we are tough and we're going to stay tough on narcotics in this state, end quote. This sounds like a scary guy to be.
That's okay. They can talk tough. You know, we're tough also. We've been able to pass these laws in a long way, and we're not giving up. We're not going anywhere.
Absolutely.
So
true. Absolutely.
You know, they can push. We'll push back, and if it's going to go like that, then the House midterm race comes up in 2 years.
Yep. Yep,
and they'll start campaigning soon.
We're going to have to get more people on the bandwagon with this, and I think a lot of Congress already is. But you know, the administration sets the tone in a lot of ways.
Sure.
And you know, we're going to see where this leads us in the next 4 years, and it's going to be a wild ride. Hang on, and we'll be right back.
From the soothing sounds of a water wall to the warmth, wood interior, and beautiful artwork, as soon as you enter Sahara Wellness, you are welcomed into a relaxing space where we strive to provide our patients with a healthy balance of mind, body, and spirit. That balance is achieved through a compassionate and knowledgeable staff who possesses both a passion for the medical cannabis industry as well as unrivaled dedication to assisting those in need of a natural method of pain relief. Our bud tenders are available to assist patients in selecting cannabis-based medicine that best suits their needs from our selection of flower, waxes, CBD lotions, and delicious edibles. Sahara Wellness is located at 420 East Sahara Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada. Check out our entire menu at www.420sahara.com.
Attention medical marijuana patients. Do you know what your cannabis actually contains? Are there heavy metals, pesticides, or even mold? And what strength is it really? And is it really what you need? Well, the answers to these questions are simple. DigiPath Labs. DigiPath Labs is a Nevada state-approved medical marijuana testing facility whose scientists carefully test products for safety and potency, all within the state's rigorous mandate. You can buy with confidence and trust knowing DigiPath Labs has tested your medicine. If you're a licensed grower, dispenser, extractor, or edibles manufacturer in Nevada and want unparalleled customer service and consumer confidence, go to digipathlabs.com and find out what we can do for you. And as a patient, only go to dispensaries that carry the DigiPath Labs seal of approval. That's digipathlabs.com, DIGIPATH labs.com, or call us at 702-209-2429. That's 702-209-2429.
And welcome back to the Cannabis News Hour. All right, we were just talking about the political ramifications of legalization and the new administration coming in, and as we said in the last segment, medical marijuana has now passed in 4 more states, and so I wanted to just look at a couple of the states that we have here, just because there are certain things of note. And in the case of Arkansas, it becomes the first medical marijuana state in the Bible Belt, and that is really showing that this is inevitable, I think. And once you have that kind of wall starting to break down, there's no going back on this.
I've always felt that a lot of the Christian right should embrace medical marijuana. It's holistic medicine. It's natural. It's in the Bible. If you are a biblical person, if you believe in that, which a lot of Christians will tell you, we believe it 100% word for word. There's no adulterating that. So, if you turn your book to page 1, Genesis 1:12, it's right there in the first
129 and 130.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things. They just won't. I really believe we're doing God's work here, to make a long story longer. If people are doing God's work, making the sick well, I mean, I don't really understand, what these people's problem is, other than what they've just been force-fed. You know what I mean? I think it's really a beautiful thing to see some people in the Bible Belt starting to come out in support of this, and hopefully break down these. I don't want to say break down these walls, because there's, we're all on the same thing. We're all on the same side here. We want to see sick people get well and people live long, happy lives. I just think we have different ideas how we get to that goal, and they'll come around.
And in mentioning the Bible as one of the major religious texts in the world, the thing is that it never specifically says that marijuana or cannabis in any way is bad. It doesn't even talk about it. The only references to drunkenness and sloth and that sort of thing are related to wine. They never talked about pot that way. And there's serious biblical study that say that the cannabisum is actually cannabis, and that was the oil that was in the holy anointing oil.
Yeah, I've heard that tossed around before also. I mean, as many translations as there have been, we might never really know what it was, but I'd like to believe that that's true.
Talmudic scholars and readings of the Torah, which is essentially
the oldest that we can
the
get.
first book of the Bible, in many ways. And so I agree with you. If people want to help heal the sick, this is certainly a good way to do it. And if you are following that philosophy, that God created everything in the universe, but everything He created was good, then if He created cannabis, surely it must be good.
Absolutely.
And so the direction of insanity that we've gone on in the 20th century is...
Well, I just don't like how people think that a political affiliation or the fact they go to church or something should preclude them from supporting medical cannabis.
Well, the good thing is in Arkansas that they passed it with a vote of 53.2 to 46.8. So it's a 6-point margin, which was how we expected to do here in Nevada. We did a little better than that, and it's respectable. This is a bigger margin than most presidential elections. And so what they're going to do is they're going to allow patients who have any of 17 qualifying conditions, including a catch-all, will get a written statement from the doctor, and they'll be able to purchase medical marijuana from dispensaries which have been set up. They're not going to be able to grow their own, but it's still a good step forward. Now, also of note is what I saw here is that in one of the legalization states, Massachusetts, their state Senate leader says lawmakers shouldn't dilly-dally looking at the new marijuana law, and this is Senate President Stan Rosenberg, and I get this also from our friend Derek Stanley at Hemp News. He said that the initiative for marijuana recreational use on the vote that the voters improved will need improvements to address issues such as taxes on marijuana sales, driving while high, and edible pot products. He told reporters he believed most voters approved of legalization in principle, but noted that the measure was drafted more than a year ago. I don't know why that's so important. Before a report produced by their special Senate committee that visited Colorado. It's still not going to change the issue in any major way. He said, now you had another spokesperson for the Yes on 4 campaign, Jim Borghesani, say that I think this is too rushed. The legislature has a role to play, but I think they should respect the will of the voters, let regulators do their jobs, and then determine what should be done, if anything. So you've got, on the one hand, you've got a member of the state senate saying, "Oh yeah, this thing the voters just put in, it's fine, but we got to tweak here, and we got to do this and do that."
Oh yeah, they even went on to say that the legislature has the right to revisit policy matters that were unaddressed or not addressed as well as they could.
Yeah.
They can do whatever they want, basically, is what that tells me, and they intend to. So
yep.
We'll see. We'll see how this goes.
They're going to have to follow the will of the people to some degree, but how much we'll see. That's politics as usual, I guess. But I agree that with the spokesperson for the Yes on 4 campaign that said they put this in, start with this, see how it plays out, and then you can tweak it if necessary. But it looks to me like Senate President Rosenberg, who's a Democrat, by the way, is looking to ensure that the taxes get on there. And, well, taxes are what made this happen in all these states.
Yeah.
So, here in Nevada, we passed question 2 by a 9-point margin, 54 to 45, and that's quite respectable. And as of January 1st, 2017, possession will be legal for adults over 21, possession of up to an ounce, and if you're beyond the 25-mile limit from a dispensary, then you can grow your own. Now, I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to be asking Tick Segerblom, our good friend, the next time we see him. But if it becomes legal on January 1st, and the dispensaries that are not yet the medical dispensaries that are not yet allowed to sell to the recreational market are not going to be put in place with those regulations by April at the earliest, maybe June.
Right. I was just going to say, we'll be lucky to get away with it in the
so
summer.
Does that mean that every adult in Nevada can start growing on January 1st because there are no facilities available to service them in the market?
The way you just told it to me, yes, I would believe. I would believe so.
I agree. I agree.
And now this is going to cause an issue when the dispensaries do open, or excuse me,
are
when
these
it
people
turns recreational.
grandfathered in? That is the $64,000.
That is the question, and not only that, but this becomes an enforcement issue. It's like a series of steps. Like, okay, there's a law in place that says you can't grow cannabis, so now you have to have Nevada juries convict if people won't plea out. If something were to happen. So if juries won't convict, then DAs won't prosecute. And
Correct.
if DAs won't prosecute, then the police won't arrest. So it's this whole cycle, and it has to start with the juries. Someone's going to have to take it to trial and have them
and that
do
happened
it.
last year where we had a Las Vegas medical marijuana patient who had too many pounds and too many plants.
And they won,
house.
I believe.
And he was exonerated, and so the DA has not brought any more cases like this.
It's the same reason, I would
then.
believe, because it's costly, it's time consuming, and it's agitating. No one likes to lose.
Yep.
So, I think that's the issue that's going to be created eventually is, let's say everyone is not grandfathered in, and this, that, and the other, because there will be no way to prove that these people were grandfathered in unless you force everyone that's growing to register. So if you can't do that, it's going to come to one of those cases, like I'm saying, eventually,
right.
And we'll see how this goes. I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that, and there can be a workaround. But
another aspect of the law that's interesting and that Metro is all hair on fire about, which to me is a good thing, is that now cultivation for the first 2 go-rounds is, or for the first 3, is actually a misdemeanor with a $600 fine. And it's not till after the 3rd conviction does it turn to a felony. And so what Metro is afraid of is now people who've been running these grow houses and were facing D felonies in the state of Nevada are now only going to be facing
a slap on the wrist.
Slap on the wrists,
So you'll have people. What, you think people are going to grow 100 plants and could care less because they'll take the fine and take the risk?
Well, that's what Metro is concerned about.
You're going to have some of that.
If it happened to a significant degree, if we had, 10,000 patriots in the state of Nevada decided they wanted to start their own houses and grow 50 plants in a house, Metro could not possibly, and even the federal government could not possibly come in and do enough to those people. Now, I don't think you're going to have 10,000 people starting to do this, but if you only have a handful of people do it, yeah, they can get smacked down. We've learned that in the past. But the more people that get involved in something like that, the harder it becomes for them to actually.
So what are we advocating? A public service announcement to enlighten the masses
Civil
of their newly found rights?
I'm not suggesting that we take any action. I'm just saying that that if this were to happen, the scope of it would exceed the response capability, and ultimately that would force government to either crack down tremendously or to rewrite the rules to reflect the will of the people.
Look, I think growing pot is just like anything else. The people who are really good at it make it look really easy.
Yes.
People who want to get involved in this, they want to start quick, they want to do it cheap, and they want to grow really good stuff. And that's not how it works. It's a process.
Pick 2 out of 3 there.
Yeah, but you're finding genetics and all that stuff, it's a pain in the ass growing good cannabis, and that's why most people just get frustrated. Yep. What Metro doesn't realize is you're not going to have 10,000 people starting to grow. You'll have some people get into it, people with green thumbs or people who are curious, but most people who get into it are going to get frustrated. They're going to walk away from it, just like people who learn how to play guitar or something. It sits in the corner, and they'll have a corner full of grow equipment, and they'll end up going down to the freaking weed store and buying their grass after a while. And that's what'll end up happening. But hopefully, with the new Democratic majority in both houses here in Nevada, we can hopefully make some inroads that we were able we can fix some opportunities that were missed last legislative session because of the red wave.
Especially now that that Pat Farley has switched and decided to
go nonpartisan. Yeah, well, this was bound to happen eventually. The Republicans in Nevada have proven themselves to be pretty crappy Republicans over the past couple of sessions, especially.
You've been a lifelong Republican.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've worked on numerous campaigns, and I was a proud Republican for a lot of years. And I voted for Donald, and all that crap. But really, it's just like you can only crap on your constituents so long until they turn on you. And we saw that here in the Nevada legislature. A lot of the incumbents that voted for that tax increase are out, and honestly, they deserve what they got.
And the ones who weren't already in the middle of their term. Some of the state senators who voted, like Michael Roberson, who ran for Congress and lost in the primary, he still had his Senate seat to go back.
Well, sure, he got lucky.
He's highly unpopular, and he'll probably get voted out in 2 years.
It just is what it is, and I commend Senator Farley for being brave enough to take that step because, like we were talking before the show, it's not an easy thing to just go ahead and rescind your political affiliation after a career and such. You're looked upon as a traitor by one half, and the other half might not be so willing to take you in with open arms so conveniently. But she's been a friend of our issue.
Yep.
Regardless of her political affiliation, I would thank her for her service, and I really wish her the best.
Yeah, I do too. And she's going to be important in the legislature, caucusing with the majority. And a lot of this is dependent on the legislature because we were talking about timeline on this. And the legislature sits in February and leaves in early June. And so we don't know where we're going to fit in that. Now, typically, pot issues have always been in the last couple of days of the session.
Yeah,
they do everything else, but here they want to be able to take in tax revenue, and there's a 15% excise tax built in to recreational cannabis, and so they want to start getting that money in. And what I'm hearing from people like Tick Sagerblom is that we're looking to be done with this in early April, and that they're going to initially allow the dispensaries who are already established to have an 18-month window on this. And because of that 18-month lock, I think we're going to see a number of the dispensary licenses that have not yet been active come online.
Oh, of course, they've been slow dragging as long as they can, and now that it's passed, you're going to see them raising money and going for it. And I think, it just is what it is. I'm not particularly happy with the way that's going to roll, but I just want to see the recreational get rolled out as soon as possible so that we can get that 18-month window as closed as soon as possible. I would like the 18-month window to start January 1st, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it's going to start whenever once the statutes are written. But from that point, whenever that is, in April, let's say, that the legislature passes this bill, then the Department of Taxation is going to have up to a year to come up with their rules and regulations and get this program running. So in the meantime, they're going to have in that year the supply available through medical marijuana dispensaries, and your local friendly dealer is not going to go away, I'm sure.
No, of course not.
But and we're not suggesting that you should support the illicit market, but we must acknowledge that they're there, and they've certainly helped bring people to this point. Okay, we're going to take another quick break and come right back.
Hi, I'm Armin Yamanijan, CEO of Essence Dispensaries, and I'd like to let you know a little bit about our company. As a completely complimentary service, our on-site nurse is here to meet with any patient or non-patient to discuss dosing and best practices. We have 3 convenient locations. We have one location on Tropicana between Decatur and Jones, which is our west side location. Our Henderson location is on the corner of Sunset and Green Valley Parkway, and we're proud to announce that we have the first and only dispensary on the Las Vegas Strip, on the corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Sahara. Our prices are the lowest prices in town and the highest quality medicine. Please come and see us at one of our 3 convenient locations or visit us at essencevegas.com. You can also call us at 702-978-7575. Once again, the number is 702-978-7575.
Getting Legal offers an informative and simple way for you to get your marijuana card. Why come to Getting Legal to get your marijuana card? We have a 99% approval rating and the lowest price in town. Avoid legal problems. Getting Legal can get you legal fast. Ready for a new start? Come in now and get relief from your chronic conditions affecting your quality of life. Call Getting Legal today at 702-979-9999. That's 702-979-9999. Or visit our website at gettinglegal.com to get your marijuana card today.
Attention medical marijuana patients. Do you know what your cannabis actually contains? Are there heavy metals, pesticides, or even mold? And what strength is it really? And is it really what you need? Well, the answers to these questions are simple. DigiPath Labs. DigiPath Labs is a Nevada state-approved medical marijuana testing facility whose scientists carefully test products for safety and potency, all within the state's rigorous mandate. You can buy with confidence and trust knowing DigiPath Labs has tested your medicine. If you're a licensed grower, dispenser, extractor, or edibles manufacturer in Nevada and want unparalleled customer service and consumer confidence, go to digipathlabs.com and find out what we can do for you. And as a patient, only go to dispensaries that carry the DigiPath Labs seal of approval. That's digipathlabs.com, D-I-G-I-P-A-T-H labs.com. Or call us at 702-209-2429. That's 702-209-2429.
From the soothing sounds of a water wall to the warmth, wood interior, and beautiful artwork, as soon as you enter Sahara Wellness, you are welcomed into a relaxing space where we strive to provide our patients with a healthy balance of mind, body, and spirit. That balance is achieved through a compassionate and knowledgeable staff who possesses both a passion for the medical cannabis industry as well as unrivaled dedication to assisting those in need of a natural method of pain relief. Our bud tenders are available to assist patients in selecting cannabis-based medicine that best suits their needs from our selection of flower, waxes, CBD lotions, and delicious edibles. Sahara Wellness is located at 420 East Sahara Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada. Check out our entire menu at www.420sahara.com.
We are here with our special guest from the Yes on 2 campaign, Joe Brezny. Are you with us, Joe?
Hey, sure am. Yep.
Thank you so much for taking your time to talk to us again, and congratulations.
Thanks. Great to be on.
Yeah, we're just, it was kind of a surreal thing to be watching the election results last Tuesday night when we saw cannabis winning in 8 out of 9 states, and it was a nail biter for us here in Nevada, because we didn't start releasing results for quite a bit after the polls closed, and those first results were coming in from some of the rurals, and they looked scary.
Yeah, the first release showed us down by quite a bit, but then when you took a look at the numbers of voters and where it was from, the heart attack kind of went away.
Yeah.
But that first refresh on the Secretary of State's website stopped me in my tracks. But then when the early vote was released in Clark County, that moved it to a buffer of about 11 points with 500,000 votes in. And so at that point, we breathed a sigh of relief, because not only did that reverse the trend that we were seeing, but it also put us just about where our polling was showing us, just about where we expected to be in Clark County from the early vote. And then we thought, even if there, occasionally in Nevada, you'll see a conservative rally on Election Day, even after a depressed early vote on the right. And the Democrats got a little ahead on the early vote, and we knew they were pushing for an Election Day rally on the right. But I think we learned two things. I think the first thing was, not every election year here has a huge Election Day rally for the right. And the second thing is that if you look at what happened here, we actually gained points on Election Day. And if you look at what happened nationwide, with it being kind of a red wave year, the one thing you can say definitively is marijuana is no longer a Democratic issue versus Republicans. This is something where, in a red wave year, we won 8 out of 9 races, and we're showing that there's significant support on the right now. So, if anything, the demographic that defines support is age. If we have to pick any single thing, we have a real drop-off of support over age 65. But that year moves up every year. It's not something where all of a sudden at age 65 they change their mind. It's generational. 10 years ago, it was anyone over 55. So I think by 2020, we're going to be looking at putting this thing away if we didn't just put it away on Tuesday.
Well, we sure hope so, but the problem comes in that we were watching these results coming from Nevada and coming from these pro-cannabis states, but the presidential results were scary. And we were talking about this earlier in the show. We've got the cannabis may have won the election, but there could be scary people at the attorney general's slot and in the vice presidency, and so it seems that for the cannabis movement, it never comes easy, because
no.
Well, no doubt. And I kind of had a question to follow up with that about. A question to follow up on that to you, Joe. So what's next for the conquering heroes of the campaign? Or do you guys go back to Ohio, or are you kind of going to refocus and not do a state-by-state thing now? Are you going to focus on congressional action now? Like, what happens? Where do you guys go from here? I feel like we're all out of easy wins.
Yeah. Well, we are out of easy wins.
I don't want to call them easy wins, but
well, where I go from here, to be honest, is I go back to my life. I mean, this is something where I was not a marijuana professional 3 years ago, and I don't know if that's really what I want to do. I did this because it was very personal to me, and this is where I live. And the other side kept saying, Joe, you're doing this to get rich, you're doing this to get rich. And I insisted that I wasn't, and the truth is I wasn't doing this to get rich. I was doing this because I wanted to get it done. So I've got a full-time job. I'm going back to that. My clients are happy to have me back full-time, and I'm going to spend more time with my family. Now, as far as what the movement does from here, I've already talked to the team in Michigan that's putting together a 2018 campaign, and although my marijuana campaign days are done, they're behind me, I'm going to coach their spokesman for Michigan, because I think one of the things that made us really strong here and kind of gave me a handicap when I was arguing is anytime that they would fly in someone from Project Sam to argue on their behalf, I would say, oh, by the way, my house is 5 miles from the studio. What time's your flight back to D.C.? Mm-hmm. And that really resonated, because it was obvious that these guys were flying in, these heavy hitters, to try and say a bunch of things about marijuana and the industry and Nevadans that just weren't true. So I think that that's going to be critical for Michigan as well, is to make sure that their spokesman or spokeswoman is someone who has a local tie, that is a local that lives there, that's been there, that knows the community, and that knows the marijuana movement there, because I think that really gives us, I think that's the right way to do it, and I think it gives us a leg up over Project Sam, who just has these 5 guys that they parachute in at the last minute They're very good. They're very good liars, but I think that you can beat them with well-trained locals. So I'm going to help out with that. The stuff on the federal level, I'll be honest, with the Congress that we have, I don't expect any movement in the next 2 years on the federal level, but we do have Aaron Smith and the NCIA, and they've got a full-time lobbyist that monitors every piece of legislation, and they try for banking and tax reform every year. But I've heard from a couple of marijuana experts and a couple of friends I've got on the Hill, just you're not going to see a marijuana Congress. Even with the wins, the makeup of the House is locked in because of gerrymandering, and so I just don't think we'll see much progress for at least 2 more years federally. We've got NCIA doing that. I think what will be interesting, Michigan is a midterm race that has a governor's race, so that'll boost turnout a little bit, and it'll be more possible for us to take marijuana to the ballot there. But overall, midterms aren't our game. I would expect to see 2 states that we go for recreational as a minimum, but probably 4 is an absolute maximum. Because the other thing that we learned this year, we bid off about $45 million worth of campaigns nationally, and we had about $25 million available to run those campaigns. And so the industry is still getting up and running with how much they can help fund advocacy, and the billionaire donors are now on the other side. So our billionaire donors have handed it over to the industry, and the industry is still getting up and running to where they can step up. So I think you'll have an okay year at 18, maybe 2 states, maybe 4, and then in 2020 is where we're really going to look. If the federal ban hasn't fallen by then, even with a Republican Congress, if the writing isn't on the wall at that point, I think that's where you see an aggressive year. Is the Democrats are going to be out for blood on the re-elect for the presidential, and you will be in a presidential, so you'll have a natural bump of young people voting, which trends our way. And the top line, the older folks who do not like us and won't vote for us under any circumstances, they'll be 4 years older, and a lot of them
will be gone.
A lot of them will have passed. Yeah, they'll be gone. So it's something where I think 2020 is going to be the next big push election year where you may see 5 or 6 states go at once.
Although that's not to take away from the fact that that this election day in 2016 was, I think, the watershed day for the movement. It was the biggest historical wins that we've had in this country, and anything that happens in 2020 essentially is building on what we accomplished this year, and what we've done across the country, especially as you point out in a red wave year, is astounding, and it shows that even though some of us may question it in the light of this presidential election, in some ways Americans still do have some common sense, at least when it comes to their weed. So so
well, I hope that what I've been hearing, because I have some contacts on the right side of the aisle, and some folks that are going to be working with this new administration. And what I've been hearing, you guys actually alluded to at the beginning of the conversation, because you didn't say Donald Trump dislikes marijuana, or President-elect Trump, God, it's weird to say, but President-elect Trump is going to come after us. What you said was, you mentioned Chris Christie, Rudy Giuliani doesn't like marijuana. You mentioned those people who could be a real issue for us. But that's the feedback I'm hearing, is that Donald Trump's a populist. He wants to leave this up to the states. If anything, he is known for taking a look at problems that need a solution, that the solution is being prevented because that's how it's always been, or that's the step we're afraid to take, and he's the one to come in like a bull in a china shop and say, stop kidding yourselves, let's just do this. From that perspective, this could be a very pro-marijuana legislation if he wakes up tomorrow and says, you know what, this is stupid, we should fix this, and we've got 8 states showing us the way to do it. Let's remove the federal ban, let's remove the banking ban, let's remove the tax penalties, and let these people do business. That's very possible. The problem with Donald Trump, and that a lot of people like me said the whole time, was you don't know what he's going to do. He could have 4 breakfasts in a row with Rudy Giuliani and decide to embrace the gateway theory, and then we're in for a really bumpy ride for 4 years or 8 years. So that's the problem. Is I'm hearing, although Mr. Trump may be leaning our way,
he's easily swayed,
may agree with us, it's the folks he's surrounding himself with that have always been your reefer madness guys.
Crazy stuff. Well, the idea that that Donald Trump could be the pot president, to me, sounds like a stoner fantasy. So I don't know about that, Joe. We'll figure that one out. But anyway, hey, I want to thank you for taking the time to call us today. I want to thank you for your work on Question 2. There are a lot of people in this state who are breathing a sigh of relief over the removed or greatly reduced threat of police interference in their lives, and it's an important thing, and it's nice that that we had fellow Nevadans working on this this time to carry us over the line. So thanks again,
I'm really
Joe.
proud of how we got this done. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.
All right, take care.
All right, and so before we go, we just wanted to cover one last bit of information.
Well, Weekend is having our 3rd annual Thanksgiving potluck here at, let's see, this particular event will be Saturday, November 26th. That's next Saturday from 1 to 6 p.m. at the Cannabis Chapel. That's at 827 South Las Vegas Boulevard, Suite A2. And that's right in downtown Las Vegas. So if you have a chance, come on down, bring your favorite dish, meet some good like-minded people that Saturday after Thanksgiving, and it's always a good time.
Yeah, you know, this could be like the first American Thanksgiving, where you have the Native Americans bringing some of their bounty to save the starving pilgrims. So we'll have a good time getting together there, helping each other understand what's going to be happening in the next few years with this, and you know, we may even have a few police wander in that we have to pass some enlightenment to. Well, I guess that doesn't happen until next year.
Right, yeah, you never know. And if you want to tune into the show, remember to tune in at WWDBTV.com. And if you want to call in with questions, the phone number is 702-685-8380. And feel free to call us and talk to us.
All right, and with that, we're going to say farewell and adieu again for another week. We're going to bring you the latest news that we have in the cannabis movement in Nevada and across the world next week, and we look forward to your joining us. Bye now.